If you like wine, today's podcast is just for you. We are talking about SAVI Cucina Wine Bar. It's all the rage at Mount Pleasant Town Center. And today we sit down and talk to its co-founder.
This is Charleston Women Podcast, where you can meet like-minded, strong, independent, professional, and inspiring local women. This is Charleston Women Podcast.
And now I am thrilled to welcome to the Charleston Women Podcast, the co-founder of SAVI Cucina Wine Bar. We've got Karen Mennuti-Raju. Karen, thank you so much for joining us. Cheers to you. I feel like we should be sipping wine right now.
I think it's a great idea. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. I love your spot. So many Charlestonians have found it there at Mount Pleasant Town Center. We love you. I think a lot of people, though, don't know your story there's so much to your story, what you used to do before the wine bar, the time at which you opened the restaurant. So this gives us an opportunity to get to know you a little bit more and dig in. I just want to start with you, though, because I think it's fascinating. You were in corporate America, correct? Before you even had dreams of opening a wine bar.
I was. What's interesting is I always grew up being passionate about food and wine. I thought wine as a young girl, but food. And I think I received my first cookbook when I was about 8 years old and just fell in love with cooking and entertaining and making people happy with food. So long story short, I went to college at Virginia Tech for hospitality and tourism management, but left that industry to have, what I always call kind of a normal 9-to-5 lifestyle. Where I could raise a family and, have weekends and holidays off and all of that good stuff. But there was always something gnawing at, I think, my inner core that said, you're not completely fulfilled. And so I did a lot of soul searching along with my husband. And we were sitting on top of Dow Mountain in Paso Robles, California. And I'll never forget this moment. And we just looked out over this amazing view and we kind of looked at each other and we're like, what are we doing? What are we doing with our life? How can we become and feel more fulfilled? And long story short, it kind of ended up with doing something that we're passionate about, and that's food, wine, and hospitality. And so I left my job in corporate America after 20-something years and decided I was going to have kind of my second career in life. And SAVI Cucina was born.
And here you are today. I know you mentioned you like the normal hours to raise your children. You probably don't have that anymore. Being in the restaurant biz, I know I've seen you late night.
Yeah, it's pretty safe to say. What's great is my stepdaughter is 24 now, so she is out of the house. So I have no idea how some of these young moms do it every day, working these crazy hours. But yeah.
What would you say to someone, because you took a dramatic shift, and I love telling these stories because I think, we're raised, we go to school and we think, my life is going to be X, Y, Z. And sometimes it takes a dramatic detour, sometimes a U-turn for someone who just doesn't feel fulfilled, like you and your husband. How do you take that leap? How did you get the courage to do that?
I think I never would have done it without him. I will say having a strong support network around you that pushes you to just take one step at a time, because my personality is such that typically I would try to figure out the whole staircase. And I had several people around me that just kept reminding me, like, you're not going to figure it all out. Just take one step at a time. And my husband always says, inch by inch, it's a cinch, but mile by mile, it's very difficult. It rhymes when he says it. But anyway, so I think it's just surrounding yourself with a super strong support network and constantly reminding yourself of the why. Why am I doing this? Right. And that helps along the way. So
you just made that dramatic decision, that bold decision that we are going to open this restaurant. And then you decided to open your restaurant just before COVID. Obviously, you didn't know, no one knew what would happen, but what was the struggle like when you opened before the pandemic hit?
It was crazy. Obviously, none of us knew what was coming down the pike, right? So we opened in November of 2019 and really just started to hit our stride through the holidays. And then, February started rolling around and we heard rumblings of things. And I give Ty, my husband, a ton of credit because he's an incredible businessman, and he saw what was coming. And literally, I think it was March 17th is when we got the news that we had to close our dining rooms. And literally on March 18th, we pivoted and we had online ordering up and running. And you think about, I always try to find the silver linings, right? And I think about the silver linings as we moved through COVID. And there were several days where we were just like, is today the day we just throw in the towel? How are we going to get through this?
Right.
But again, silver linings, Italian food translates beautifully to takeout and delivery. My husband was the delivery driver. I was on the phones along with some of our other key employees, just taking orders. And then we're blessed with a huge patio outside. So when we got the green light to do outdoor seating, we were able to, entertain 50 people without having to put a tent in our parking lot. So tons of great silver linings and surrounding ourselves with an amazing team that we all work together as a family.
Be part of the conversation surrounding Mount Pleasant. Sponsor the Mount Pleasant Podcast. Podcast marketing is the new, powerful way to brand your business and reach your customers. For more information, visit carolinapodcasts.com or call 843-345-7012.
You're listening to the Charleston Women Podcast.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like during the early stages of the pandemic, I was doing an interview with someone else and he was like, SAVI has this wine club. Am I right? Did you launch that during the pandemic?
We launched it, I want to say it was June of all the years start to run together. I want to say it was shortly thereafter because we started doing virtual tastings. And so we would have
it very quickly became the buzz because a lot of people were talking, have you heard this? You have to do this.
Yeah, it was great. And I think, one of the things that I think a lot of people learned through the whole pandemic was the sense of community. It is so critical, and we're meant to do life with others, and it's hard to be isolated. And so when we came up with the idea to do virtual tastings, it gave folks such a great outlet, not only to just unwind with some wine, find some new things that they loved, but also feel a connection to others. And I think that was the beautiful thing about it.
Right. Are you still doing your wine club or your tastings?
We do still have our wine club. We're up to 444 members now, I think. And so we don't do the virtual tastings, but as part of the wine club, we do invite folks into our wine bar to taste through our monthly selections. And so it still gives that sense of community that we always love about food, wine, and hospitality.
Yeah. So we've talked so much about business. We've talked about life in general, making big leaps. Let's talk about food and wine. Okay. Can we get into the details? I love asking owners. I know it's like picking a favorite child because I'm sure you love so many things on the menu, but I want to know if you're a first timer to SAVI, what should you order from appetizer down? What do you recommend? And then let's talk about some of the wines. What are your favorites?
Oh gosh, I love that. Yeah, it's funny because all of my staff knows I have favorites in terms of our food menu. So my favorite right now in the appetizers are our fried artichokes, and they come with this delicious lemon aioli that will knock your socks off. So that's always my recommendation for a starter. I'm in love with both our Caesar salad and our Italian salad. You have to have that as well. And then my most favorite thing on the menu is the eggplant parmesan. Everybody will tell you that. I recommend that hands down. It is sliced super thin, layered like a lasagna. It's a huge portion, so you don't have to cook the next day, which is another positive.
Yes.
So those are some of my favorites. And then we also have you can't leave without dessert. So the almond rum cake is just tremendous. We're blessed with an amazing pastry chef that does all of our desserts. And
I don't think I've had that yet. The almond
it's fairly
rum
new.
Cake.
Yeah, it's fairly new to the menu. Perfectly balanced and super light, so it's not a belly bomb at the end of the meal, as I like to call it.
And then obviously with wine, you want to pair it with what you're eating, but do you have any favorites or things that you recommend?
Yeah, what's funny is I think, when we first started this venture, my husband's a certified sommelier as a hobby. When our daughter went off to college, he had all this time on his hands. So he was like, you know what, I've always been passionate about wine. I might as well study it. So long story short, he has taken me out of my comfort zone of, big, bold reds from California. So if you would have talked to me 8 years ago, I probably would have said, California Cab is my favorite. But now I'm obsessed with Italian wines. And I think there's such great stories behind Italian wines. And there's such there's a quality to value ratio as well that a lot of folks haven't discovered. And our wine list is, 400 bottles strong, but and many of which are from Italy, but we also have a section called Best of the Rest. So you can find great California wines. You can find wines from France, all over Spain, all over the world. But I'm really passionate about Italian wines.
Right. 400 bottles strong. So you're going to take a while looking at that menu.
Yes. And what I always say is we've got a team of sommeliers that we have on staff, but they're never stuffy. It's very approachable. Our whole concept is approachable. We want wine to be fun. Never stuffy and intimidating.
No, it doesn't feel stuffy. And I know you guys value Southern hospitality, from the moment you walk in and you're greeted. I feel like your bar is like a magical area because because the movie theater is right across the way, right? So a lot of people will stop in just for a drink or an appetizer. Every time I go, I leave with a new best friend. I feel like people at the bar, it's just I don't know, it's just the vibe, the welcoming atmosphere. People are just chatting and it's really, really nice.
That's wonderful. And I'm so glad that you feel that, because we always say that if you've left SAVI not feeling something like you want to come back and you want to be in that energy again, then we haven't done our job. Our job is to make you feel like you're coming to our house for dinner. Mm-hmm. We want you to feel comfortable talking to folks at the bar, or just, enjoying a book at the bar yourself. So there really is something special, I feel, and that's something that we work to create every day.
There really is. This is the Charleston Women podcast. So I have to ask you, as a female business owner, what do you think of our community and all of the, strong women around here that support each other?
I am blown away. When I first moved to this area, I always knew there was a strong sense of community. There's just something about this low country area where I feel like people feel supported and people look after one another. And then as I started to kind of delve into the business side of things, how many strong women there are, and especially in the industry that I am, so many strong women in food and wine. And it's traditionally, it's an industry that's very difficult for a lot of women to break into. Right. So super refreshing, super exciting to see where that's going, and the fact that we're moving forward in the Low Country.
Absolutely.
Is tremendous.
Speaking of business women, do you still have that event space in the back where people can people still rent it and gather and hold meetings there? It's
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great spot for up to 25 people, potentially 30. In our wine bar, the same thing. So both great opportunities for women to get together as well.
I'm gonna have to do my next event there. I mean, wine and just
how could it go wrong,
much better, right? What is next for SAVI? You guys had a troubled start from the beginning, but you quickly pivoted after COVID hit. What do you see in the next year or two?
Gosh, I think expansion is certainly on the horizon, and it's something that we've always been excited for, both the SAVI concept, and then we have kind of a couple other concepts that we've been chewing on, no pun intended.
Can you give us the dish? Like, are we going to see more SAVIs across the Low Country or something totally different?
You might see both. You very well may see both. So stay tuned. We're big believers in everything starts with a great real estate deal. And then the rest will follow, but we've got some
Can I put in a request? Can you come to James Islands?
Yes.
Please.
I will tell you, it's funny because when we have guests that come to SAVI and they cross bridges for us, it truly warms our hearts.
It's a big deal.
I know
I like you if I'm crossing several bridges to get there.
That's how I am too. Yes.
Well, is there a timeline and any of these projects or surprises that we might see in the Low Country coming up?
We're hoping for a different concept rather than SAVI. I would say hopefully in the next 6 to 8 months. And then we have a second SAVI location on the horizon that is pretty much just a dirt spot right now. So a lot of that will depend on the supply chain and developers and all that good stuff.
Breaking news right here on the Charleston Women podcast, 6 to 8 months, something special coming. Until then, what is the best way to follow along? I know you guys do a great job on social media. I imagine like your Instagram page, Facebook. Where do you want people to go? You got it. Yeah. Instagram and Facebook's a great way to get in contact with us. Our website as well. We keep up to date with different wine dinners and happenings across the restaurant. But yeah, take a look on Instagram. That's a great way to follow us. What is the best night to go? I know weekends, I'm sure, are busy. There might be a little bit of a wait, but any insider info just to sneak in there and have a little date night? I'll tell you, Wednesday night is Wine Down Wednesday. So we offer 25% off on all of our bottles on our list. So it's a great night to try something that you may not normally have on your radar. Yeah, if I had to answer, I'd say make it Wednesday night. All right, Karen, anything else you'd like to add before we leave the podcast?
No, really just a huge shout out to this community. They have embraced us with open arms, and that is why we do what we do and why we get up every day. This industry can be super crazy, but it is beyond rewarding and fulfilling when you're blessed to serve a community like this. So I'd say from the bottom of our hearts, just a huge thank you.
Right. Well, Karen, thank you for all that you do. It has been such a pleasure to dig a little bit deeper and hear more about your story at SAVI Cucina and Wine Bar. And we can't wait to see what's next for you. And I know the next time I see you, I will toast you because we're going to have wine in hand.
Yes, we will raise a glass.
And I'm going to get the artichokes and the dessert and the eggplant parmesan, all the things.
Definitely. Thank you.
Karen, thank you so much. SAVI Cucina and Wine Bar. Please go check them out, follow them on social, go to their website, have a delicious meal and a wonderful glass of wine. And this has been the latest edition of the Charleston Women Podcast.
Thanks for spending time with Charleston Women Podcast. Please like us and follow us on whatever platform you're using to access Charleston Women Podcast.